Oh, you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Open Bible Church San Jose online. Welcome this Sunday. We are so glad that you have joined us today. We consider it an honor for you to take your time to spend with us on this beautiful day of celebration. And we are entered into a season of celebration, and we're going to be talking about that in just a moment. And we have been approached by the schools because in years past we have provided boxes of Thanksgiving meals, and we have distributed those boxes to three of our schools, our elementary, middle, and high school. And this year we got approached and were asked if we were going to be doing the boxes of love again. And we really weren't sure what we were going to do with that because of COVID and because of the amount of work that it takes and the army that is involved in putting the boxes together and getting them delivered. We were kind of in limbo. And when we thought about it, we thought maybe it might be better if instead of a box of love, we gave a card of love. And so we went out and we purchased 50, $60 gift cards to Safeway. And so we've been passing those out. We were able to give 40 of those cards to the schools to pass out, and we have kept a couple that we've been using for needs in the body and in the area outside of the schools. So what we were asking is if you are interested in helping support, because many of you in the past have helped us in purchasing of the food. This year it's just the gift cards, and again, $60 for a meal for Thanksgiving for a family. And if you would like to contribute towards that, many of you already have, so thank you. Thank you for your generosity. Thank you for your kindness and your compassion. We would like to continue to extend this offer. Our goal is $3,000. We're just a little over halfway there. And if you would like to purchase a meal or give a set amount, you can do so by mailing your gift to the church at 5303 Carter Avenue, San Jose 95118. Or you could go on to the church website at www.sjobc.com and going down to the giving portal, click on that, put whatever amount it is that you would like to contribute towards the cards of love. Go down to the section where it says the notes and where you would want those monies sent, and just put in that note cards of love, and we'll make sure that those funds are directed in that direction. So thank you. I appreciate your generosity. I appreciate you as a church wanting to have an impact in the community and to make a difference. And I think the thing that really made a difference for me, that was an excitement for me regarding this, was the schools came to us this year instead of us going to the schools and asking them, how can we help you? And I was just really moved by the fact that the school felt comfortable coming to us and saying, hey, we could really benefit from your generosity again this year. And I was very, very excited, very happy to be able to come alongside of them once again this year with your support, your help, and your kindness. These last 3 weeks we've been talking about Thanksgiving and gratitude, and today I want to continue on with that vein of thought, but I want to approach it just a little bit differently. And we've been really focusing in on give thanks, be grateful, do all these things, and you'll have a happy heart, and you'll do what God wants you to do, because being grateful or being thankful is part of God's will. But the problem is that sometimes we are in seasons of life, or we're just at a place where it is so hard to give thanks. And so today I'm going to be talking about what to do when you don't really feel thankful. What to do when it's really hard to be grateful. We're reminded in Psalm 118:1. Psalm 118:1 says, "Give thanks to the Lord, for he is good, and his love endures forever." And that would be great in a bubble or in a vacuum where where there's nothing else going on, and everything's good or safe or protected, and yes, we can give thanks. But what about when everything's hitting the fan, and it just seems like the life is just turned upside down around us? And that's kind of what's going on this year. This year, everything looks so different, and for the most part, it's not a good different. For some, the question may not be how to be thankful, but how can I be thankful when I don't feel like it? You know, we've been tested during this season as never before in practically every area of our lives. And for some, this has been a year where it has been just way too overwhelming. You know, what are some things that keep us from being thankful? What are experiences that we incur that could really throw a damper on the season of celebration for us? A couple of things that I was thinking through and processing, some like this. For some, you've experienced some level of loss, whether it is loss of job, loss of income, whether it is a loss of something very valuable, something precious. Maybe you've lost a loved one, and it's just been really really difficult for you. You're in a time of grieving. For some, you've just been carrying some really heavy burdens, and those burdens are just weighing you down, and it's been hard to see past them and beyond them. For some of you, maybe it's just easy for you to just complain about everything, and just see the negative in what's been going on, and it's hard to bring out the positive because it just seems like the negative just is ringing way too loud in your ears at this point. For some, there's a sense of entitlement. You know, you don't deserve this, or you're not getting what you think you deserve. We think we're owed more than what we have, and you know, how could they feel this way, or how could they do this to me? And that leads to a sense of pride and selfishness, and we begin to focus everything on us, and we can't see past our own issues and our own feelings and emotions, and so we get lost in that. So that sense of entitlement, the selfishness, the pride just kind of takes over and puts us in a real bad light, a real bad mood. And then what could happen is it could lead into bitterness, and that bitterness just begins to take over. And what bitterness is like a corrosive attitude. It's like a corrosive emotion, and it begins to rot away at a foundation of stability, and it seems just like our life just kind of takes on this horrible direction, horrible feeling, because that's what happens when bitterness begins to take over. And then through that, we allow there to be influences in our life that shouldn't be there, and I call these toxic influences. And maybe it's other people, maybe other people's moods and attitudes of getting us down. Maybe we're reacting to other people's reactions to everything that's going on, and so it just leads to a very toxic environment, and a very poisonous emotion that just kind of settles in our spirit, and it doesn't allow us to see beyond what is happening around us, and we lose perspective. Remember that word, perspective. We just lose sight of what's good around us because of the negative and the poison that we have. And for some, maybe what you have going on in your life are hurts. You know, maybe something happened with your parents, or something happened with your kids, something happened at work with a coworker or a boss. You know, something happened with a neighbor, your wife, your kids, your parents, and you're carrying around a lot of hurt, a lot of emotional baggage, and it's really hard to see past that as well, in order to be thankful or grateful. And then lastly, and this is not an exhausted list. I mean, there's so much more that could probably be added to this. But the last one is when all this stuff that's happening just kind of weighs us down, and it just settles, and we just settle into a state of depression, and we just become sad, and we have a hard time feeling happy or thankful or grateful, because this feeling of sadness has just kind of settled in, and it just kind of weighs us down and keeps us from really seeing past the fog that seems to have just kind of come over our lives, that lethargic emotion and feeling. And so all these things, some of them alone, some of them leading to others, and some of them combined, just leads to a really hard, a hard attitude of being grateful or thankful for anything, let alone coming into this season of celebration. Um, G.K. Chesterton said this. He said, when it comes to life, the critical thing is whether you take things for granted or you take them with gratitude. And I want to focus on that throughout the message, and the fact that a lot of times when we take things for granted, we when things don't go our way or the way that we think they should go, it has a drastic effect on whether or not we're going to be thankful or grateful. But then if we take it with the spirit of gratitude, it has a different outcome. We don't allow the negative things or the hard things that come against our lives. Bible says that they will happen, not if, but when they happen. Will we take it with an attitude of take them for granted, or will we take them with gratitude? There's an expression that we're often told, and I don't really care for it, but it's something that people say to try to make it through difficult times, and they say, "Fake it until you make it." And the idea of that is you try to be happy because eventually you will be happy. And I don't always agree with that. I think sometimes when we're trying to put forth something that we're not, really it kind of falls flat. People see through it. People don't see it as genuine. People don't see it as real. And so what ends up happening is we just play this fake game, and I think people don't want us to be fake. They want us to be real. If we're hurting, if we're going through difficult times, they want to know, and they want to see, because according to the Word of God, then they can come alongside of you and be a support to you. So don't fake it till you make it, but be real, be genuine. We'll get it figured out. We'll get through it. We will understand. As time goes by, we'll figure it out. So that being said, gratitude sometimes doesn't come easy for us during difficult seasons of our life. You know, the Bible, when we've talked about these the last couple of weeks, the Bible talks about, giving thanks in all circumstances, to give thanks always for everything to God the Father in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. The first verse was in 1 Thessalonians. The second one was in Ephesians. And then it all kind of leads to giving thanks, or having a thankful attitude is what God wants us to have. And it's part of God's will. But then again, what if it's hard? What if you don't feel grateful, or what if you don't feel thankful? What do? How do we snap out of it? How do we reverse that and put it into a better light? It's tough. It's tough when you're sick. It's tough when you're unemployed. It's tough when you're lonely. It's tough when you're feeling bullied. It's tough when you're angry. That's a word I've been hearing a lot lately. Feeling angry about everything that's going on. It's tough if you're grieving. You know, it's tough to feel thankful when the car won't start or payday isn't for another week. When you're waiting for the results of that biopsy or that COVID test, or you got passed over again and again for that promotion. You know, it's tough to thank God for another day living in want or in need, in poverty, or in a very dangerous or unsafe environment. Another day estranged from your parents, your kids, your family members. You know, another day dealing with a chronic illness or an addiction. You see, there are so many things that could be going on in our life that can really play havoc with our emotions and what we're feeling. And I'll come to that in just a moment. St. Gianna Beretta Mola said this. She said the secret of happiness is to live moment by moment and to thank God for what He is sending us every day in His goodness. I know easier said than done, but bear with me. Remember that word that we started this off with, and that word is perspective. You see, it's all about our perspective and how we see things in light of not what we want or not what we think should happen, but in light of God's bigger plan for our lives, God's bigger picture. There's an old story. It's thousands of years old, and it's told of a farmer's horse that ran away. And the neighbor sat down with him and just commiserated with him on his loss, just feeling sorry with him and for him. And the farmer said to him, "Who knows what's good or bad?" Well, this proved true when the horse returned the next day, bringing with it a group of wild horses it had befriended. The neighbor reappeared to congratulate the farmer on his windfall, only to hear the same reply: "Who knows what's good or bad?" And you know, the farmer was right again, as the next day his son tried to mount one of the wild horses and he fell, breaking his leg. Again, the neighbor commiserated with him, only to hear a third time, "Who knows, what's good or bad?" And a fourth time, the farmer's wisdom prevailed. The following day, soldiers came by commandeering young men for the army, but the son was exempted because of his broken leg. You see, this ancient tale illustrates an important fact that much of life consists not in what happens to us, but in how we respond to what happens to us. Whether we choose to be pessimist or optimist, negative or positive. And we find that whatever way we go, we're usually right. It can be a negative situation, we can be negative, or we can be positive and see the positive in light of the negative in that situation. One of the greatest stories of the Old Testament, one of my favorite stories, one of my favorite characters, is about a man who faced many obstacles in his life. And that man's name was Joseph. There is a considerable amount of the book of Genesis that is attributed to his story. It starts in Genesis 37, and it goes on for about 13 more chapters telling the story of Joseph. There's other stories intermixed within that, but that block of scripture is reserved mainly for this amazing story. You may be familiar with it. You may remember that Joseph, at the age of 17, that's where it starts in Genesis 37, has a dream. And that dream places him above his brothers. And his brothers weren't happy. And his brothers, because of Joseph's relationship with his father and these dreams, were very jealous of Joseph. Well, one day the brothers were out tending the sheep, and Joseph's father sent him to take bread and provisions to the brothers. And then the brothers, as they saw Joseph coming, they had a plan. They were going to kill Joseph. throw him in a pit, and tell his father that he had been killed by a wild animal. But two of the brothers, they didn't want Joseph to die. They were trying to figure out a way that they could salvage his life, bring him back to his father, and maybe Joseph would learn his lesson about being so braggadocious and so forward with what he believed God was doing with his life. But instead, what happened is the brothers relented on taking his life, but they sold him to a bunch of traders that were coming by their area, and those traders took Joseph into Egypt and sold him to a man by the name of Potiphar. Potiphar was in charge of the guard. He was the captain of the guard of Pharaoh. And so Joseph served in Potiphar's household for a time, and God honored him and blessed him. He blessed Potiphar's household. And then Potiphar is told a lie, and Joseph goes to jail for something he did not do. So the next 13 chapters in the book of Genesis go from Joseph finding favor with Potiphar to being sent to prison, again for something he did not do. And then while in prison, he did a good deed, and he interpreted a dream for a man that was having his life spared. And Joseph told that man, "Don't forget me." And so what happened? The man forgot him. So Joseph languished in prison for even longer than what he had anticipated or hoped for, only to be instrumental in interpreting a dream that Pharaoh had, and Pharaoh was led to Joseph by the man that Joseph had interpreted his dream, and he was able to get out of prison. And so all of that came around to Joseph then being removed from prison and given a position of prominence in the Egyptian government. He was the second in command, and he was in charge of all the affairs of Pharaoh's household and work within the nation of Egypt. And so it would be great end to the story right there, but it's just the beginning of the explanation of why Joseph had to go through all of this. In chapter 45, Joseph had prophesied through Pharaoh's dream that there would be a famine in the land, and 2 years into the famine, Joseph's brothers were sent by Jacob, their father, to Egypt to get food, because there was no food in all the lands around Egypt. So when the brothers came to Egypt to get the food, Joseph saw them. And then it was during that time that Joseph revealed who he was. And you would think that the brothers would be ecstatic and excited to see their brother Joseph, but no, they remembered what they did to him, and they thought that Joseph would exact his revenge against them, and they were afraid. And so Joseph tried to calm them down in Genesis 45. I'll read that in just a moment. But then he sends his brothers back home for his father. They gather his father, and for a season, the family lives in Egypt with Joseph. And then the inevitable happens. Joseph's father, who is well up in age, he dies. Now the brothers are really worried, because they figured because the only reason why Joseph spared them was because their father was living. And now that their father was dead, they thought Joseph surely will take our lives. But Joseph didn't. And in the first encounter with the brothers in Genesis 45, 7 through 8, Joseph told his brothers, reassured them with this. He said, "But God sent me ahead of you to preserve for you a remnant on earth and to save your lives by a great deliverance. So then it was not you who sent me here, but God." So Joseph was basically seeing the situation, and many of us would say his brothers did it. It was his brother's fault that Joseph was where he was at. But Joseph reassured them and said, you were just instruments in my life to bring me where God needed me to be. And then after his dad died in Genesis 50, verses 18 to 20, his brothers then came and threw themselves down before him because they thought Joseph would surely take their lives. They said, "We are your slaves." They thought, you know what? Maybe we can save our own lives by becoming servants or slaves to our brother. But Joseph said to them, "Don't be afraid. Am I in the place of God? You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." So what is this? It's about perspective. See, Joseph could have blamed his brothers for everything that he went through. And I mean, he went through some horrible situations. And he had his highs and he had his definite lows. And to have his family turn his back on him, to be accused of something, to be sold into slavery, to be accused of something he didn't do, to go to prison, and all the dynamics that are surrounding that. Joseph basically was letting the brothers know that this was all according to God's plan. How different would our perspective on things when we see the hand of God working? We can see that God's got something going on in our situation to use us for something greater than what we could even imagine. And so this is an amazing story with so many more things that I could pull out of that, but I want to focus on a couple of things. Charles Spurgeon said, "If we can't give God anything else, let's at least give him our thanks." Let's at least give him our thanks. In order to have the attitude that Joseph had, I'm sure he opted to be thankful or grateful to God rather than bitter. And I think sometimes we have that choice. Are we going to be grateful or are we going to be bitter? Well, one of the things we need to remember in dealing with life's difficulties is that the things we go through are things that aren't permanent, so to speak, but they're seasonal. And we go through seasons of dry times, we go through seasons of want, we go through seasons of plenty and blessing and things like that. And so we need to remember that God's mercies are new every morning. Lamentations 3:22 and 23 remind us, because of God's great love for us, we are not consumed. His compassions never fail. They are new every morning, and great is your faithfulness. Great is your faithfulness. We have to remember, perspective-wise, that the faithfulness of God is daily. Every day we get a new chance to experience the mercies of God, even if it's just the fact that we have life and breath and we're able to get out of bed. Barbara Kingsolver said this: "Hope is a renewable option. If you run out of it at the end of the day, you get to start over in the morning." And let us remember that God is a God that brings, his mercies are new every morning. The other thing is that gratefulness is a practiced art. We need to learn how to practice gratefulness. Being grateful is a discipline more than it is an attitude. Disciplines are practiced in order to develop a healthy muscle memory for appreciation. So in other words, we must choose thanksgiving over thanks feeling. Let me say that again. We must choose thanksgiving over thanks feeling. If everything we did revolved around what we felt, how messed up is that? There are times I don't feel thankful. I don't feel loving. I don't feel kind. Does that give me the excuse to act in that manner? No, I have to overcome that feeling of despair or of anger or whatever, and I must work towards a feeling of being kind and compassionate, generous and gentle. We must choose thanksgiving over thanks feeling. Instead of asking why, we need to learn to ask the question what. Not why did this happen, but what is God trying to teach me through this? What is God trying to do in me through this? What is God setting up for me to respond to? What is God doing around me that I need to be aware of how I'm going to respond to that? The other thing in practicing gratefulness And I've been seeing this more and more and more, and more than I've ever seen in the past. And that is to write down, journal 3 things that you are thankful for. And so you get up in the morning and write off the before you do anything else, write down 3 things you're thankful for. And then at the end of the day, before you go to bed, you revisit those 3 things and you see if there's anything else to add or change, or if those 3 things were beneficial enough to get you through your day with a feeling of being thankful or grateful, even if it's just for those 3 things. And so I encourage you to do that. And lastly, we need to take a hard look at what we value. And I think that's the thing that's really getting shaken up in our culture today, is many of the things that we thought were important really aren't. Many of the things that we valued really aren't valuable. And we're starting to take a harder look at being thankful for our family, being thankful for the jobs that we have, being thankful for the fact that we have a job, being thankful that we have a home. You know, this whole COVID assault on our culture and on our society. I work a lot with groups that go out into the encampments of the homeless, and they are telling us that the ranks of the homeless in the San Jose area are growing. Many people are losing their jobs. They're living out of their cars. They're living out of a tent. You know, they're scraping by with whatever they can get. We provide food during the week for anywhere from 300 to 500 homeless people a week, and we provide blankets and clothing and all kinds of resources to go back out into the community to help these people whose lives have been devastated. And for some of them, you know, the thing that they can be thankful for is maybe a warm blanket or a warm jacket. Nothing more than just something that they have right then and there and in the now, to be thankful for something that they didn't have before. But because somebody else saw ahead of time to give that away, that they were able to receive that blessing. You know, sometimes it takes a tragedy or near tragedy to put our priorities in place. A near-death encounter can drastically change a person's personality for the better. I've seen this countless times of people who have suffered heart attacks, car accidents, serious injury, or near-death experiences, and they come out on the other side of that with a different perspective. I knew a man once when I was a youth pastor in Minnesota. He was a, for lack of a better word, he was a jerk. He was hard to get along with. He was constantly abrasive and just really not a nice guy. And he suffered a major heart attack. And I remember watching him as he recovered from that heart attack. And when he came back to church, man, I tell you what, it was night and day difference. He was one of the nicest guys you would ever have met. He went from being a taker to being a giver. He went from being mean to being loving and kind, and every so often shedding a tear because of a heart of compassion and a heart that was changed literally by his heart attack. You know, perhaps you're in the middle of something terrible, a serious illness, a broken marriage, a job loss. Ask yourself, what does the combination of this circumstance that you're going through and God's working in that, your perspective, what's God trying to make possible for you? Take that and let that be a learning lesson for you. You see, Joseph trusted that God had a bigger plan for his life than he had for himself. That God took him and basically he saved the world, literally saved the world with the ability to interpret Pharaoh's dream and then to implement a plan of action to save the nations around them. And so how many of you remember the old hymn, Count Your Blessings, Name Them One by One? And it kind of goes like this. When upon life's billows you are tempest tossed, when you are discouraged, thinking all is lost, count your many blessings, name them one by one, and it will surprise you what the Lord has done. And the chorus goes, count your blessings, name them one by one. Count your blessings, see what God has done. Count your blessings, name them one by one. And at the end, it says, count your many blessings, see what God has done, and it will surprise you what the Lord has done. And there's 3 other verses in that, but they all talk about when we're in positions or places of defeat, and how easy it is to focus on that defeat, but how much greater it is when we can focus on the blessings within that situation that God brings in our lives. I want to close with this story, and it's a story that I often remember when I'm dealing with stuff, when I'm dealing with the garbage of life, and it just reminds me the perspective or the attitude that I need to have when it comes to dealing with the times of difficulty that want to overcome or override my sense of thankfulness or gratefulness. And it goes like this. There was a farmer who had a donkey who fell in a well. And the animal brayed and cried for hours as the farmer tried to figure out how to get it out. Well, finally, the farmer decided that the animal was too old and it needed to just figure out a way that how he can allow to put it out of its misery. And so he called his neighbors and he began to fill the well up. They all grabbed shovels and they started shoveling dirt into the well, and the donkey brayed and cried and not knowing what was going on. And as all this dirt was going in, they were hearing all these noises coming from the bottom of the well until finally the well fell quiet. And so they thought maybe something had happened to the donkey. They had thrown quite a considerable amount of dirt into the well. And so as they peered over the edge of that hole and they looked in, they noticed that the donkey was standing on top of the dirt that they had thrown in. And then they started throwing more dirt in, and they noticed that the donkey would just shake off the dirt, and then step up. And then after every shovelful, shake it off and step up, shake it off and step up, until finally, after they had filled the well with enough dirt, the donkey was able to shake off the last of it, and then to be able to jump out of the edge of that well back onto the solid ground, and ambled away from all the farmer and his friends as they looked at what was going on, and they realized, that the donkey wanted to live more than it wanted to die, and in order for it to survive, it had to shake it off and step up. And so that's my challenge and encouragement to you today, is that when you're facing all kinds of things that would want to rob you of your joy, rob you of your gratefulness and your thankfulness, I challenge you to shake it off and to step up. Shake it off and step up. And you will find that you will have things to be thankful for, things to be grateful for, things that God has done that maybe you hadn't seen, you were blinded to because of your situation and your circumstances. But if you would just choose to have the perspective of seeing that God can take whatever it is that you're going through and bring good from it. So as we close this morning, God bless you. And if you're in need of prayer, maybe you're in that situation where it's hard to give thanks, would you just text to the number at the bottom of your screen, 408-547-4911. Again, 408-547-4911. Your first name and the word prayer. And we will be praying with you. We'll be praying for you during this difficult season. And we'll be hoping and praying with you that you can be grateful and thankful during this season of celebration, even if things aren't going as well as you would like. God bless you. Have a great week in Him. Happy Thanksgiving. Even though I am pre-recording this message and you're watching it on a couple of days past, I hope and pray that your Thanksgiving was worth being thankful for. God bless you. See you next week.
moving in our midst. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, working in this place. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, moving in our midst. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, working in this place. I worship you. I worship you. You are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. You are here, touching every heart. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, healing every heart. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, turning lives around. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, mending every heart. I worship you. I worship you. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. 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 Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop, you never stop working. You never stop, you never stop working. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop, you never stop working. You never stop, you never stop working. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop, you never stop working. You never stop, you never stop working. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, never stop, you never stop working. You never stop, you never stop working. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness.